Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So I am in the car, as you can see right now, and I am about to go to an interview. So today is October the 1st, and I have been out of work since, I want to say, what's the last day? September 24th. So I just wanted to come on here and let you guys know, like, the pros and cons of being a paralegal, because what drew me to, like, walk away from my job is one of the cons of being a paralegal, and it can be quite stressful. So I don't really recommend anybody just quit their job. It was like a decision that I made apprehensively. I didn't really give it any thought. I was under a lot of pressure at the time, and I just did it without really considering my dynamic, and I really don't suggest that. So basically, I'm going to list 5 cons and 5 pros, and I made a list, so I'm going to refer to my list real quick, because I'm going to do the cons first, and then I'll do the pros, because I don't want to make it sound all bad, because it's not all bad. It's just how you manage it. So, okay. One of the first pros of being a paralegal is lack of appreciation. A lot of jobs in this field, and mostly law firms, will not really show their appreciation. Now, there is a administrative assistant week. It used to be called Secretary's Week, where the most firms will show appreciation. They'll do lunch, they'll give you gift cards, they'll do like catering to the office and stuff like that. But on a day-to-day basis, you won't really hear a lot of recognition. And it's not like you want to hear praise all the time, but there are some firms that just won't acknowledge your hard work. And being a paralegal is a very hard-working type of job, mentally, not necessarily physically, but mentally. And then being in front of the computer 24/7 is a very hard job. So number 2 brings me to long hours. So the job that I just had, I was working 8:30 to 4:30 or 9 to 5. I could pick which set of hours I wanted, and I still was required to work long hours. And the reason for that is because I was doing billable hours, and I think I explained this in my previous video. So when you work on defense, you are required to bill for your time, and this firm had a billing requirement of 125 hours minimum a month. So that equaled out to about, my eyes are watering, that equaled out to about 36 hours a week and about 6.1 hours a day. So I'm there at 7 hours a day, and I had to bill for a majority of the time that I'm there. Now, this is the first place that I ever worked for that required that many hours. My last job that I was at for 6 years did not have any billing requirements, so I was a little spoiled in that area. And then the job that I had prior to that, the billing requirements was about 25 hours, so it was about half of your working hours, which is a little bit more reasonable, because you got to factor in, like, okay, I'm doing the work, but I have to, literally, the job that I just left, you have to bill for every single task that you do throughout the day, which is very, very hard. And 125 was the minimum, so they were encouraging you to do way more than that. Now, it's fairly easy if you're, you know, playing around with the time and adding stuff and not really doing the work that you say you're doing. But I never did that, and I don't really recommend it. You can play around with the time in a sense and still be truthful about it, but it's very hard. So long hours, because if you're working defense, you need to get that time in, which means you're going to be working over the weekend just to get that time met. And you're not getting paid for those hours, because that would be considered overtime. So that brings me to number 3, which is high stress. stress. Being a paralegal is very stressful, okay? It's one of those jobs where when I go home at the end of the day, I am venting to my husband about it. So that is a very high stress job. And what makes it so stressful is that a lot of times I feel like as a paralegal, I am a magician. Like, I just have to make shit happen. I have to make shit happen. And it's like, okay. It's just, you'll know when you'll be a paralegal. Like, I'm not a magician. I can't make things happen. But you have to do what you have to do. This is the name of the game. And yeah, that's it. So that brings me to number 4, being a paralegal. There is a certain growth of being a paralegal. Like, I don't really consider, like, I feel like being a paralegal, you can work for a law firm, you can work for a government agency, you can work for a corporation. You can find a job in many different places, but I don't feel like you can advance as a paralegal. Like, you'll just be a paralegal or a senior paralegal or a legal assistant or a legal secretary. Like, those are the things that you could do with this job. Or you could be like something in compliance or something like that. But I feel like the growth is very limited. But it's like a case-by-case situation, because it depends on where you live. It depends how the job market is in your area. But I feel like being a paralegal is being a paralegal. Like, there's nothing else to do unless you are doing something else, like a workers' comp, compliance something, or manager or something. So there's not a lot of different pots you can be in, if that makes sense. Last but not least, number 5 of my cons for being a paralegal is the office dynamics. So being in this person was looking at me. Being in the office environment, mostly law firms, because that's all I ever work for is law firms. It's so funny, but the dynamics can be interesting. Now, the firm that I worked for 6 years, I loved it there. I was forced to leave because the office was undergoing some major changes financially. The carriers that we have were walking away, so that's money being taken away from the firm, and I just didn't feel secure. So I was forced to venture off and find something new. Plus, the partner that I was working for had left as well. So the office dynamic there was a little funny too, but it was like, okay, I've been here for 6 years, I'm just going to deal with it, rock and roll with it. But a lot of times you can deal with like pettiness and cattiness and clicks and clangs in the office. And this office that I was working at, it was a very large office. It was 2 floors, a well-known law firm. I was trying to get in there for years, and the dynamic there was very interesting. Like, people didn't really say much about anything. I mean, there was a little bit of office gossip. It wasn't like, crazy, but I just felt like there wasn't really much communication in terms of the cases. Like, I am used to my attorney communicating with me in all aspects of the case. So I had this one particular situation where my supervising attorney scheduled a deposition and she didn't tell me about it. And then the day before the deposition, she was looking for a deposition notice, and I'm like, you never even told me that you scheduled the deposition, so how was I even supposed to make a notice? Like, there was things about the cases that I wasn't aware of, and I'm used to being, as a paralegal, I am in all aspects of the case. I need to know if you're planning on scheduling the IME or a deposition. I'm the one scheduling it. I'm the one doing the notice. I'm the one doing the communication with the doctors, the adjuster, as far as the bill is concerned. So at this particular place, they wanted me to bill 125 hours, but I wasn't even being communicated with. So I didn't feel like that was okay. So the day that I left, because I actually quit, you guys, like, I legit quit. I quit because I had a project to summarize a deposition transcript, and I haven't done one of these in years. And so I took on a project because that's what I do. I never really turned down a project. I'm going to do it. And I had a due date of Thursday. Now, in the midst of this project, I had a whole other lot of things to do that my supervising attorney expressed that were priority. These are priority. I need these records. This case is about to go to trial. I have a deposition on this case. Cool. So when Thursday came, I was not near done, so I asked for an extension, which he granted till Friday. I underestimated the whole time frame for this project. Monday came and I had an email that basically said, like, you were given a project, you were given an assignment and you have not completed it, and the billable hours are not being met. You're not completing assignments. Now, what bothered me, because it wasn't a nasty email, what bothered me is that it said I'm not completing assignments, and it was inaccurate because I've always completed all the assignments that were ever given to me. I've never had to extend a project ever. So that was the first time. When I first got hired, they gave me literally tons of medical records. I can't even explain how many medical records it was because it was so many that I had to summarize in literally 4 days. In 4 days. And I didn't even extend that project. And you know how hard that was? It was the hardest thing I ever had to do. So it kind of like rubbed me the wrong way that was done. And what rubbed me the wrong way again was the fact that she CC'd the office manager. Now, when you CC in the office manager in a firm like this, it's just telling me one thing, that you're not pleased with my performance and that you are creating some type of documentation for something. And when I start to feel that way and I'm not appreciated, there are other places that I can work. Now, I do feel secure as a paralegal, which brings me to my pro. One of the pros of being a paralegal is that if you are dedicated in this field, you will always find a job. You will always find a job. Now, the only thing is going to be getting the salary that you want, but I have one interview that I already done, one today, and one Thursday. So that tells you right there that the job market is doing fairly well as far as paralegals are concerned. So I'm not worried about that. So that is one of the pros. If you are dedicated, you are a working paralegal, and you are dedicated to your career being around the legal industry, you will always find a job. So that's pro number one. Pro number two is that it is a rewarding career. I do love working on these cases for my whatever client that we have, whether I'm on the plaintiff side or the defense side. We're working for the best interest of the client. I love that, because if we settle a case for a reasonable amount, that means we've done something great for the client, and I love that. So that's my pro for number two. The third pro that I would consider being a paralegal is that I just love the professionalism of it. I just feel like being a paralegal is just so me. I think mainly being a legal profession, because even if I was an attorney, I feel like it's me. Like, it really is who I am, and I love that. Another pro to being a paralegal is this can be a stepping stone to law school, which is what I am doing. Now, I wanted to go to law school for years and years and years and years, but after I had Landon and Ryan, I kind of like put it on the back burner and wasn't really sure if it was something that I wanted to do. Like, given the late hours and all the work that comes with being in the legal field, I just didn't know if that was something that I really wanted to do. What was I saying? Okay, so yeah, the paralegal field, it can be a stepping stone to law school, which is what I am doing. I mentioned that law school has been on my to-do list for such a long time, and I'm finally putting the actions into place now to make that happen. So I consider this, like, I am much knowledgeable about the legal field than someone who hasn't worked in legal field and just go straight to law school. You don't necessarily have to do it this way. I don't even think that it's essential, but once I become a working attorney, I'll know so much more than the student who didn't work in the legal field, if that makes sense. So yeah. I'm gonna get myself on to this interview, y'all, because I'm running just a little bit behind schedule. I had to go and print out my resume on resume paper, and I had to print out my recommendation letter as well, and then I had to drive like 45 minutes to the place. So the interview is at 12:30. I'm just gonna confirm that it's that time. Yeah, 12:30. So I'm gonna get going just in case, just my luck is gonna be traffic, because I'm always late to stuff. So now that I'm a little early, I'm sitting here being lackadaisical. So yeah.